Let's move to Bryan Stern, US military veteran, counterintelligence special agent, formerly focusing on special ops hostage rescues, the founder of Grey Bull Rescue, which carried out the exfiltration of Maria Corina Machado. Bryan, welcome to France 24. Great to have you on the programme tonight. You've said yourself this was the biggest, most high-profile job your team has ever taken on, a job that you've said previously you don't take on if you don't think you can crack it. You've had a 100% record in the past. Tell us about it, how it started, the nighttime operation, and take us into that world.
Yeah, we got called by a friend of mine last Friday, so a week and a day ago, Friday night. We were coming back from Aruba, setting conditions for Venezuela operations, and asked if we would be willing to hear somebody out about a pretty sizable operation. He connected me to one of Maria's team. We had a short conversation where they did not disclose that the operation was for Maria, but they kind of slipped up, and we figured it out in about 2 minutes. Once we figured it out, that changed everything. This is our 800th mission that we've done.
Wow.
So this is actually pretty normal for us. We do boats and secret rendezvous and trade craft and dangerous routes and checkpoints and worry about biometrics and worry about all these things day in and day out. My team and I at Grey Bull Rescue we've rescued or evacuated over 8,400 people from every war zone in the last 4 years. So the tactical execution of this was relatively straightforward, dangerous, complicated, because all these things are dangerous and complicated. What made this very special was Maria. Of the 8,400 people that we've done this for, she's the only one with a Wikipedia page, and her face is everywhere. She's a household name throughout the Western Hemisphere. So that piece of it made it extremely complicated.
So midnight, roughly, I think, Tuesday night. Under the cover of darkness, clouds in the sky, very little moon, so as not to attract too much light and attention. Things start to happen. Talk me through the route to the fruit of Maria Corina Machado setting off, you saying essentially go, to the point that she arrives in Oslo. How long was that period? Talk me through that phase.
Yeah, so she was in a place in Venezuela. We don't disclose where, and went to another place in Venezuela near the water. We don't disclose where. These are very sensitive operations, and people's lives are at risk. So we're very sensitive to the counterintelligence threat of the Sabine and the DGI of Cuba, the FSB and the GRU of Russia, as well as Hezbollah and the cartels. So she starts off in Venezuela, moves to what we call a BLS, a beach landing site, where she boards a boat with a small group of associates, we'll call them, friends, people who we trust. Those men drive her by sea in 5 to 10 foot seas under the cover of darkness to a rendezvous point at sea. She's met by another boat. That's the boat that I was on. And then we take a very, very long journey through very dangerous seas. The seas were between 5 and 10 foot. So 5 and 10 foot seas in a small boat in the middle of the night with no lights, no radios, no anything, deliberately, because we're worried about being detected. We then come ashore. We have a very short period ashore, and then she's shuttled to an airplane and flies to Norway. And here we are.
So she's in the water for how long?
13 hours or so, 13, 14 hours.
You've said she was...
So this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. When you have to think about this, you have to think about, we can't use standard communication because we're worried about detection. We're worried about things falling from the sky. While the Americans are conducting kinetic operations against boats, the Venezuelans, the Cubans, and other countries are conducting surveillance all throughout the region. This is a very, very high threat area. So extreme care must be taken to look a particular way, both in emanations, as far as what signatures we're emanating, and also how we look. Two boats meeting in the Caribbean at sea at night, bebopping around in the water, exchanging packages and people, can be perceived to be the wrong thing. We also didn't know. We knew that we took every precaution possible to protect the identity of her as the target, However, things can go wrong. So she's the most wanted woman, by the Maduro regime. So we were scared the entire time.
If I'm right in saying you knew who she was somebody that you admired. You normally ask for a password when you meet somebody to prove, okay, this is a rendezvous that's taking place. You didn't with Maria.
Yeah, this time we didn't. Usually we either do we have different ways that we authenticate. That's what we call it, authenticate. But I've been a fan of Maria's for years. So I've watched many of her speeches. I've been following her on Twitter for a very long time. So, it was a great opportunity to rescue a hero of mine.
And what did you say to her
I don't think
when you first met her?
I said, "Hi, Maria. My name is Bryan Stern." And she said, "My name is Maria." I said, "Great to meet you."
And I guess one thing that you can tell us as much detail as you can, security allowing, is to what extent was she disguised? I assume she was disguised. I know you've said she was soaking wet because of the enduring the journey and the difficulty of travelling. So was there a disguise involved?
I don't want to get into specific tactics, but what I will say is her face. She has a very Maria has a very distinct face, and everyone knows what it looks like. That's the problem. Is everyone knows what it looks like. This is the equivalent of moving around Mick Jagger. Whether you like Maria or don't like Maria, you definitely know what she looks like. So, um, uh, all kinds of tactics were used, both digitally. We There was a social media piece as well. There was a physical signature management piece. There was a digital signature management piece. We had to do a lot of things. There was a deception piece where we created some noise in some different places to under the pretext of confusing people that may be looking. And with these problems, with these kinds of things, from a counterintelligence perspective, it's very hard to know if they're working. It's very, very, very hard to know. The way you know it's working is because no one's killed you yet, or no one's arrested you yet. So
Yeah, it's a
these are
zero-sum
very
game.
dangerous. Absolutely, absolutely. And the Maduro regime, we need to remember the Maduro regime and the security services had been looking for her for months and months and months and months and months. But with the awarding of the Nobel Prize and the ceremony, they knew that this week, if she was in Venezuela, that she would be trying to get out. So every port was covered, every rail station was covered, every checkpoints were severe. There was lots of they because they had a date or a confined time of when she may be moving. They were able to focus their efforts in a very real way, which made the problem that much harder. At the same time, we knew that and we were able to plan for that situation.
I've been with special ops in Afghanistan before, British special ops, and I think I've heard you say before your professional job is to be a worrywart, not to trust anybody, including a team. No offence, I think your point was. And just tell me a little bit about that, about going through this journey. Presumably, a lot of people would be thinking, okay, she didn't make it on the day the ceremony was expected. Was that part of the plan at any point? And while you're looking around on that journey as well, were you encountering any problems, any dangers, any difficulties?
Throughout the journey, it's danger. There are threats throughout the entire journey, whether it's overhead threat, maritime threat, intelligence threats, ISR threats, or even just silly things like mechanical problems. We're at sea. The maritime domain is the most dangerous domain that we operate in. So, if I'm on land and I blow a tire in a movement, I can steal a car if I have to. I can buy a car. I can walk. I have options on the table. If my boat sinks with Maria on it, we have to swim, and the closest country to swim to is Venezuela, which is bad. So there are threats throughout this entire process. They don't stop they don't stop until she hugs her daughter in Norway. That's when we all took a deep breath. With respect to uh, um, being a worrywart, that's our job, especially in the counterintelligence field. That is our job. Our job is to worry about every possible little thing and mitigate that risk to the extent possible. And the reality is, she's a world leader, and like all world leaders, she has a team around her and advisors and all those people. And the sad reality is they can be bought. in the intelligence community of every country tries to buy advisors and people of other world leaders. That's just how it goes. We have to be mature about it and know that the Cubans would try and penetrate her circle, the Venezuelans would try and penetrate her circle, and there's no way for us to know who is a friend or who is a foe. Of course, we treat everybody with respect. We hope that that's not the case, but the reality is it could be the case. So because of that potential risk, we do all kinds of things to manage that, including lie.
And to the point that this could have been an involvement with the U.S. government extraction, let me quote you on this a few days ago. You've said you let your friends in the military know that you're not working in cahoots, but you go from basically up to the top. You let people know. And I think there were reports there were F-18s with some helicopters around during this maritime operation. And I think your quote, you also said this: "It will be awesome," this is to the military, "if you guys were paying attention."
Correct. So when, again, this is our 800th mission that we've done. We've done 12 jailbreaks from the Russians. We've done 5 hostages from Gaza. The reason why we're on TV today is because in this case, our target was Maria Corina Machado. But we do this all the time. And because of what we do, we enjoy, and who we are and who my team is and who my board is and all that, who my leadership are, we enjoy a fantastically wonderful, good relationship with the diplomatic corps, the military community, and the intelligence community of the United States and other countries too, for that matter. So when we do one of these operations, we want to make sure a few things. We want to make sure that they don't accidentally kill us. That's number one. And number two, if possible, that they can keep an eye on us if we get in trouble. In this particular case, the United States military is dropping things from the sky in the waters that we're operating in on boats that look, on boats. So for us, we deliberately didn't pick fast speed boats because they look suspiciously like drug boats. So we didn't do that. We did small fishing boats, which makes it harder on these waves. But we have to assume that risk, and it's a way to mitigate that threat. As it relates to coordinating with the military, we would transmit up what was going on. We would say we're in this case we would give geocords, latitude and longitude as to where we're going to be doing some things, and we would say that's us. So don't mistake us for a bad guy. Most people that we coordinated with, assumed we were extracting an American citizen from Venezuela, not Maria Corina Machado. They just, because we do that day in and day out. We've done that 799 other missions. So that was the assumption, and we didn't correct that assumption again because of who she is. We have to take extreme security precautions and restrict the knowledge of this of the operation to the extent possible.
And if you heard Bryan, Anna saying a short while ago that she thinks her mother will go back, you're the kings of exfiltration. You might get a call for a possible infiltration. How would that work?
We've never done an infill like this before. Maria and I actually talked about this on the boat. I told her, I'm like your biggest fan. Please don't go back. And they call her the Iron Lady for a reason, because she's a very, very, very resolute, tough, just a tough as nails leader. So for her going back, I would beg her not to go. But I understand that she wants to go. I understand. I'm even in my organization at Grable Rescue. We're donor funded. GrableRescue.org is our website. If you look at our social media, what you'll see is me as the leader, like Maria, on the vast majority of the operations. I like to be where my people are. I like to be where the problems are. I don't want to be an armchair quarterback and sit in air conditioning while my men and women suffer. I like to be in the field. So I completely understand where Maria is coming from, but at the same time, the threat to her is extreme, and there's no good way to deal with that, frankly.
You must have heard, Bryan, the claims from officials in the Venezuelan government essentially saying they allowed the passage to Europe, that it was an act of kind of kindness, turning a blind eye. You've said about the statements that it's as real as the Easter Bunny. Are you telling me the Easter Bunny's not real?
I'm telling you the Easter Bunny's not real, neither is Santa Claus. So sorry, kids.
But it
as
had
we approach
nothing to do
Christmas.
with the Venezuelan government letting this happen.
No, the people that are making these statements, if you go back and you look at their other social media, these are the same people that were saying that they knew that Maria was already in Europe, and that's why they haven't arrested her. Literally the week before. So the week before, she's in Europe. Okay, now that it's happened and you're embarrassed, now you say, "Oh, we allowed it to happen." Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Bryan, lovely to talk to you tonight. Can you give us any idea of what's next for your team? I imagine you can say very little right now.
Yeah, we're again, Venezuela remains an active zone that we're operating in. Grable Rescue is global. We've rescued many French people, men, women, and children from France and other countries too. So the big thing I would ask people is, if you go to grablerescue.org, there's two very important buttons there. If you need help, there's a request help button. If you're able to give help, there's a donate button. These operations cost money. Boats cost money, intelligence costs money, it all costs money. Please donate if you can. It absolutely saves lives. Maria is in Norway today with her children. Forget the Nobel Prize and forget all the president of Venezuela stuff. She's still a mom, and she's still just a mother who hasn't seen her children in 2 years. She's with her children today as we speak because of generous donors. And you can be one of those people that can change the world, frankly. And social media is great. You could also follow us on social media.
Bryan, really good to talk to you. You've had an incredibly difficult few days. You pulled it off. You've kept your 100% record. Chapeau to you. I think anybody watching this, listening as well right now, will be in awe. Bryan, great to talk to you. Bryan Stern, thank you.
Thank
US
you.
military veteran, counterintelligence specialist, and founder of Grey Bull Rescue.